On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1960. We're going to be taking a look at Harry Belafonte, and he's going to be performing Banana Boat Day-O. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. As mentioned a couple of live streams ago, I did say that we were going to take a look at Harry following the sad news that he passed away recently, and thank you guys for all of the requests for this particular video tonight. The first thing to address is the name of the song, Banana Boat Day-O, because this song was a traditional Jamaican folk song, and as with all folk songs, everybody knows it and some people give it its own name, but the original was Day-O, the Banana Boat Song. That's how it was known, but then I think everybody knows this title and knows Harry's version of it. So as always, there's a link to the original video in the description below, but I think we'll just listen to this the whole way through and then jump into the analysis after.
Hey-oh. Hey-oh. Daylight come and walk. Oh. Hey. He said them, he said them, he said them, he said them, he said them. Daylight come and go home. Work all night and a drink a rum.
Daylight come and we want go home.
Stack banana till the morning come.
Daylight come and we want go home.
Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana.
Daylight come and we want go home.
He said, come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana.
Daylight come and we want go home.
Lift
6 and 7 and 8 and punch. Daylight come and we want go home.
he said,
6 and 7 and 8 and punch. Daylight come and we want go home.
hey. He said, hey, oh.
Daylight come and we want go home.
Hey. He said them, he said them, he said them.
Daylight come and we want go home.
A beautiful bunch, a ripe banana.
Daylight come and we want go home.
I see deadly black tarantula.
Daylight come and we want go home.
Oh, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana.
Daylight come and we want go home.
Oh, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana.
Daylight come and we want go home.
Hey, me said, hey, oh.
Daylight come and we want go home.
Hey, me said them, me said them, me said them.
Daylight come and we want go home.
Lift
6 and 7 and 8 and punch. Daylight come and we want go home. 6 and 7 and 8 and punch. Daylight come and we want go home.
oh, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana.
Daylight come and we want go home.
He said, oh, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana.
Daylight come and we want go home.
Hey, oh, hey, oh.
Daylight come and we want go home.
Hey, he said them, he said them, he said them, he said them, he said them.
Daylight come and we want go home.
And there we have it. So something to point out straight away, I think we missed it right at the beginning was the reference of key that Harry got from the guitar, but let's just have a quick listen. So you can see that he's been given the chord so that when he comes in with his first deo, he knows where that pitch is in order to make it relevant to the instrumentation that then comes in a little bit later. But I mean, with this song, this performance, and I think just the whole feel of this style of music is so deep, and it hits, I think, everybody on a kind of intrinsic level, just of being human. And throughout our past, having music that, you know, everyone has got involved with before there were even instruments and accompaniment, you would get people that were singing together. And certainly the meaning behind this song is the guys who are working and being worked very hard, been working all through the night, tallying bananas to send them on the banana boat. That's kind of what it's all about, where Harry says, come Mr. Tallyman, tally my bananas, or banana. But that gives an insight into the life. When I say about them being worked hard, I mean, that's a bit of an understatement, but in order to keep morale up and just to keep going, people would sing and they would connect on that level. And this is the great thing about music, is it can lift spirits in the hardest of times. And what I love about this song is it really cuts to the core of that feeling of togetherness and what music is all about, and, you know, rising up in the face of adversity and all of those things that have such a strong emotion. I mean, when we analyze it, it is so simple, because this didn't start out with chords. It didn't start out with the band. These songs that just came about because of the situation that the people were in. And of course, the people that were in that situation had this natural propensity for music and to express themselves through music. Because I think back in those days, because of the climate, the social climate at that time, is the only way that people could express themselves in song, because they weren't given those rights just in society. Throughout the years and throughout human history, this is what we would have known music as. It's tribal. It's something that you would get together with the people of your tribe, close friends, family, and you would make these kinds of sounds. And of course, you wouldn't have instrumentation that, you know, get a count in from a drummer, all that kind of stuff. This is going down all the way back to the core of what making music is all about for humans, at least, you know, in my opinion. For me, that's where it takes my mind, and certainly the feeling that I get that I like this because it's familiar. But how is it familiar? Because it's not as if I was listening to, you know, traditional Jamaican folk songs when I was being brought up, but there's something in there that I connect to, and I'm sure that everybody connects to around the world because of having that tribal quality to it. It is not something that we recognize from our modern day lives. It's something that we recognize from thousands, hundreds of thousands, even years ago, for things that we did as a species. To mention that Harry was the first guy, and I'm not just talking about being the first black male to, you know, sell over 1 million records. He was the first male ever to sell over 1 million records. So he has that, and this is the thing, it just connects to you on such a deep level. And I know that people always refer to somebody being the first black artist to do this, or the first black person to do that, or, you know, the first person of, you know, ethnic origin, or whatever different terms that are used nowadays. But when we go all the way back, we were the same color. You know, I've seen people say on the internet before that, you know, if your skin is white, it just means that you are a faded black person. That's all it is. And that's literally what it is. The color of your skin is determined by how much of the sun your skin is exposed to. And we all know that, because when you go on a holiday, you get a tan because your skin gets darker to cope. It releases more melanin to cope with the sun's rays. So anyway, to stop from skin damage. So this is the thing that, yeah, for me, it goes all the way back. I have to say that the first exposure that I had to Harry's music wasn't listening to the Calypso album that was released in 1956, and that was the one that sold over 1 million copies. I didn't mention that earlier, but it was the Beetlejuice movie, because I believe this song is in there, but the one that I remembered most was Jump in the Line, Shake Sonora, and that happens at the end of the movie, where Winona Ryder is dancing and then kind of floats up into the air. But it's just the overall feel of the song, the percussion, and the way that you can't help but dance along. It just has that feel-good element to it, and when you then analyze it, you realize that that melody line, which jumps up an octave, I mean, it's just so hooky. And it's the jump in the line, move your body in time, okay, I believe you. You know, it's that, okay, it's jumping up an octave. So yeah, but it's great because these melodies are so easy to obviously get stuck in your head, but then to repeat as well. And this is the point, that all of this music stems from that place of everybody being able to repeat that melody and join in with each other. So it's such a universally accessible style of music, because it wasn't even really a style of music, it was just music that humans made. So this being an analysis video, I have isolated the vocal and run it through the pitch monitoring software, but we're not going to be spending a lot of time on that because it really isn't at the core of what this song is about. You know, dissecting vocals and looking at vocal stylizations and, you know, vocal technique. Even though we can refer to vocal technique, but something interesting happens when you isolate the vocal here. Obviously, it's a very old recording, so it's a little bit hit and miss in places, but we can now hear the song as it would have originally been sung. Like I said, when the guys were working, they didn't have accompaniment. This would have been how it sounded when they were working. So, I mean, it's really interesting to think of it in that light. So let's have a listen.
Hey-oh. Hey-oh.
And I'm just going to mention about that pitch accuracy. As soon as Harry has that reference point of the chord, he's bang on pitch-wise. But like I said, we're not going to concentrate on that too much, other than saying that this is all in chest voice. And that's the point of where this music comes from. That people weren't thinking about, oh, you know, balancing, you know, mixed voice, you know, head voice and chest voice, all those kinds of things. It was just using your voice as best you can, and it just so happens that, you know, it is just great vocal technique to be able to kind of belt these notes. And that F sharp 4, we're talking about male tenor range here, so it's not a low note, but this is the point, that belting in this kind of range just has so much emotional impact. But again, a lot of that emotional impact is just because of the overall sound that we all connect with.
Daylight come and walk, oh. Hey. Me said them, me said them, me said them, me said them, me said them. Daylight come and walk, oh.
I mean, there's such subtle technique in there of that vibrato, which we can see. Daylight come, you know, just getting the notes to sing. But again, this isn't about vocal techniques. When you put emotion into a vocal, these are the kinds of things that happen just as a result of that, rather than focusing on putting in techniques. They just happened.
Work all night and a drink a rum.
Daylight come and we want to go home.
Stack banana till the morning come.
Daylight come and we want to go home.
Oh, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana.
Daylight come and me want go home.
Me say, come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana.
Daylight come and me want go home.
Lift
6 and 7 and 8 and punch. Daylight come and me want go home.
me say,
6 and 7 and 8 and punch. Daylight come and me want go home.
I mean, it puts such a different spin on the sound, having it isolated. And the thing is, isolating the vocal, it does an okay job. I have EQ'd out as much instrumentation as well that I can to get this sound of, I mean, you can picture the scene of when this song would have been sung.
hey, me say, hey, oh.
Daylight come and me want go home.
He said them, he said them, he said them.
Daylight come and me want go home.
A beautiful bunch, a ripe banana.
Daylight come and me want go home.
I think deadly, like tarantula.
Daylight come and me want go home.
Come, Mr. Tallyman, and tally me banana.
Daylight come and me want go home.
Come, Mr. Tallyman, and tally me banana.
Daylight come and me want go home.
Hey, me said, hey, oh.
Daylight come and me want go home.
Hey, me said them, me said them, me said them.
Daylight come and me want go home. 6 and 7 and 8 and punch. Daylight come and me want go home. 6 and 7 and 8 and punch. Daylight come and me want go home.
Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana.
Daylight come and me want go home.
He said, come, Mr. Tallyman, and tally me banana.
Daylight come and me want go home.
Hey, oh. Hey, oh.
Daylight come and me want go home.
Hey. He said them, he said them, he said them, he said them, he said them.
Daylight come and me want go home.
I mean, yeah, you just end up, and I have ended up listening to the whole thing again with the isolated vocal because of it now being heard in that different light. But you get the impression as well, when you're just hearing the vocals, of how big the sound is that Harry is producing here. That's what this kind of music is. It's just unadulterated expression of the people singing it and their feelings at the time. And that's something that Harry just had that ability to lock into, to put across these traditional Jamaican folk songs in the most authentic way possible. But when talking about Harry and his achievements, not only musically but as an actor as well, I mean, there's much too much to mention to keep it in a short video like this, but I do want to mention about, you know, how he started and how he got to where he got to, because he was born in New York, and that was in Harlem. It was at the age of 5, his parents were born in Jamaica, but then moved to the USA. But then when he was 5 years of age, he then spent 8 years in Jamaica with one of his grandmothers. When he returned back to New York, he dropped out of high school, joined the US Navy, and actually served in World War II. So, still in the 1940s, Harry gained employment as a janitor's assistant, and one of the tenants gave him a tip in the form of 2 tickets to the American Negro Theatre, as it was in those days. And when he went, this lit his fire, seeing people performing, he wanted to do that. So he befriended a guy called Sidney Poitier, and together they used to go and watch these shows, but they didn't have a lot of money. So what they would do is buy one seat, and they would each watch half a show. So then kind of at half time in the show, they would get together and explain to each other what had happened so that they could keep up with it when the next person then went in that same seat. So he started studying acting, taking classes alongside other students, such as Tony Curtis and Marlon Brando. So there were other people wanting to get into acting who then ended up having very successful careers, like Harry. He got a Tony Award for the Broadway review, and that was John Murray Anderson's Almanac. And he started singing in New York to make money in order to pay for his acting classes. And that was in the late 40s, and he actually signed with RCA Victor in the early 50s, 1953, I believe, and that would have made him age 26. So he had been singing for quite a while before he got his big break of signing with RCA Victor and releasing Calypso in 1956, and that album was huge. Went to number 1, of course. It stayed there for 31 weeks, and it stayed in the top 10 for 58 weeks, and just stayed in the charts in general for 99 weeks. So, like I said, it was huge. But it wasn't as if Harry could only sing one genre or one style, because, yeah, he sang loads of different genres. And it seems to be the case that a lot of the great singers of the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s had the ability to do that. Not only sing lots of different genres of music, but to be able to act and present on TV and do so many other things and have that wide skill set that is so rare. I mean, not just nowadays, but it's just rare to have that unilateral ability to be able to do so many things. But Harry was one of those. And throughout the 50s and the 60s, of course, he was hugely successful. But, I mean, the 60s, the further you go into that decade, of course, the British invasion happened. So it's a common theme that a lot of people that were very popular in the 50s going into the 60s, then kind of mid-60s onwards, unfortunately things take a bit of a downturn because of that massive shift. But like I said, he had that ability to turn his hand to lots of different things, including, presenting on TV and just appearing on TV in general, because that's something that he did regularly and was a very popular guest as well as a very popular host. But just trying to cover everything that Harry did is going to be impossible in this video, because we haven't even mentioned about his acting, and we're focusing on the music here. But obviously a hugely successful actor. He was very much into politics as well as doing loads of charity work. So yeah, he had a very long, very successful life. And it's great to look back at these kinds of performances. For me, kind of goes to another level when you listen to it isolated, because it's such a true reflection of where the song originated and how it all came to be. But anyway, thank you guys for requesting this particular video for tonight. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys at the next one.